Hello and welcome to Channel Sport on Sunday. Yeah, that is the big news. 2030, the centenary, 100 years of FIFA World Cup. And Infantino says it is coming back to Africa. Morocco joins Spain and Portugal, to host 2020. But he also said something. He says there will be some ceremonial host. Yes, ceremonial host, because in 1930, that was where the journey began. And it didn't begin in Europe. It didn't begin in England, where football was supposed to have started, football coming home. Football started from abroad. It started in South America, and the Uruguayans were the first nation to host the whole world. That was in 1930. This time around, while the power blocks, the major hosts are Spain, Portugal, and our own Morocco in Africa. Those two continents are hosting the Iberian World Cup, the Iberian Peninsula. We are going to have Uruguay and Argentina, and somebody said Paraguay. So why are we giving that? Centenary, we said yes, we are hosting that one, but they also say, in 2017, Chile did join them actually, because the Uruguayans, the Argentines, Paraguayans, and Chileans did say we also, are bidding for to host 2030. Of course, you can look at how remarkable it was. I remember when in 1996, in that years, that Greece also hosted, bidded to host the Olympics. They said it started in 1896. It started from our home. Why? Let us do this Centurion. But then no, it didn't go there. Of course, it was in Atlanta that it happened. We got our first gold medal through Chioma Ajoa Okpara, and then of course that was when we started having our the dream team, because the dream team also won a gold for us in that. That was in '96. It wasn't until 2004, after Sydney has hosted in 2000, that they now give us particular hosting right, to the Greeks, and then the games went back to Mount Olympus, and that was how it is. But this FIFA says, no, we're not going to wait until 2034 or 2038 to give it to you. We give it to you in 2030. You are going to host some of the three opening games. Welcome right there in South America. We compensate you for trying, bidding. Your bid was not good enough, but then because of the historical factor, yes, Uruguay, Argentines will also, and then the Paraguayans will be part of the host. But how fitting it is, because the two greatest players in the world right now, Portugal, the home of Cristiano Ronaldo, and Argentina, the home of Lionel Messi, are part of the host in 2030. If these guys cannot make the World Cup, I know you definitely see them. So we'll talk about the World Cup in hosting rights, because a lot of other hosts are coming in. We told you last week that Morocco will be hosting 2025. That is, AFCON, while it goes down south. The Kenya and the Uganda and Tanzania, we call it KUT, KUT, will be hosting Africa in 2027. Nigeria and Benin Republic, we bidded, but then they said, you guys should wait. Probably they'll give us some ceremonial matches when the time comes. Another hosting nation will also be announced soon. Probably in the next few days or so. We'll expect Europe to announce England and Ireland as the host for 2028, Euro 2028. The last two bids that were there were England and Ireland versus Turkey. But Turkey pulled out to say, I want to join Italy. This joint host team has gone, somewhere since 2000 that Belgium and Holland did host. And then we remember Nigeria, that same year, Nigeria, Ghana hosted Africa, while Belgium and Holland, hosted Europe. So Turkey is now joining Italy for 2032, while 2028 will go to England and Ireland. So basically, we'll look at those things. In Nigeria, the Premier League entered day 2, and then one of the biggest games ever. I wish it was taking place today. I would have getting those highlights. Has to be Bendel Insurance taking on Shooting Stars, traditional teams they see, and then we'll tell you the result and also the other fixtures that did take place yesterday and the ones that will be taking place today. In the Premiership, it was how do we say it, nostalgia came back, to delight the fans at Old Trafford, because reminiscent of what used to happen under Alex Ferguson, it did happen yesterday. 91 minutes, it was still a goal down, to Brentford, but then the rejected stone, and Scott McTominay, the man from Scotland, who said, I've been in United since I was 5 years old. Yes, he did and said, never say die, and it was 2 goals that, to United and 1 to Brentford. What a way! There was joy at Old Trafford, but for the Brentford guys, they played a lot. But to go home empty-handed, that is the color of soccer, the color of football. Verstappen, how can you not take that end? 1, 2, 3 is in the bag. Max Verstappen has won the Formula 1 championship just with the sprint before the final race today in the Qatar Grand Prix, because he came a second right. The point he earned was enough for him to win the championship. So he's now joined the greats. He has joined Michael Schumacher, Lewis Hamilton. He has joined Vettel. He has joined Force, and there are a lot of them on 3, which I give you the rundown, so you know those who are your greats, the GOATs when it comes to Formula 1. Where do we start from this? Let me go to Catalan. We still expect 1 or 2 guests to join us on this show today and look at what is happening. Let's go to where we started from. The World Cup. Morocco. Are you surprised at what Morocco has achieved?
No, I'm not. Good afternoon, viewers. We talked about this last weekend, and we mentioned how football in Morocco has grown in leaps and bounds. And then you made reference to the fact that they've actually attempted to host the World Cup before.
Since 1994.
Exactly, 1994.
Yeah.
And so that's almost 30 years ago now.
Yeah.
So it means that they have been prepared all along, and then they didn't stop trying. But instead, they've not just done the work off the pitch, they've been doing it on the pitch as well. We've seen vast improvements at the Morocco Football Federation and how they become the first African team to make it to the semi-finals of
the World Cup.
That in itself was a very, very big achievement. So they're being announced now as joint hosts alongside Spain and Portugal in 2030. It comes as no surprise to me. The big news basically was about the fact that, like you rightly said, Argentina, Paraguay, and of course Uruguay will have games being played. I think the first games of each nation will be played at their home ground, and that's just to honor them for basically the World Cup being 100 years since 1930, obviously 2030. So that in itself, it's a big deal, And then FIFA says every single team will qualify. That's all 6 of them.
So it's a job of 48 teams.
Exactly. So automatically 6 teams have gone through. I know a lot of talk came in the fact that, this is the first time we're going to be seeing the World Cup on 3 different continents. On 3 different continents. Talking about Africa, South America, and of course Europe. But I think it's a good one for FIFA. They're showing that they're all inclusive. They respect and they understand that, yes, the heritage in itself plays a big part of the game. And then giving respect to whom respect is due. Uruguay hosting the rest of the world as far back as 2030. And then you listed all the teams that are hosting and all of that. Such a rich history, And then it takes you. I remember the first World Cup that I saw, and a lot of say, this was a youngin, was actually Korea, Japan. That was in 2002. But basically with France 98, USA 94, I heard stories from my dad and some of my friends.
2002, so it's 20 years ago.
Exactly. So I'm not really youngin like that. but it's just nostalgic and it's a really, really great feeling. So I think big ups to them. Big ups to them.
Yes. I'm being told that our guest is about ready or so to join us on the show. When things like this happen, you bring in the masters. We call him the master. I will call him the man. I don't know if I can speak French with him. I don't want to. I don't want to disgrace myself on air because he chooses it like any other thing. I asked you, administrator, presenter, just immediate past president of AIPS Africa. The man. What else? How do you do? Let me just introduce him as the master. Mitchell Obi. Hello, Mitch. How are you?
A blessed Sunday to you, Ken. I hope my voice is right.
Yeah,
and I've been following the beats, and it's nice to join you and look at what somebody has described as FIFAtino fantasy.
The Infantino fantasy.
To three continents and 6 hosts. But it's a party time for FIFA, and they are looking ahead. You look at 7 years from now, you want to expect that so many things will happen. But let's settle with the World Cup itself in USA, Mexico, and Canada, and then we'll see what it will take to have a World Cup in 3 continents. I think Infantino is coming to reality with some of his pet ideas, and sometimes they don't really sit well with the conservatives. But then it's a season of change, and we can only continue in that direction. For us, it's a happy thing that Africa is fully in the mix, with Morocco really leading the pack. They've been host for so many years. They've put in bids over time, at least 5 World Cup bids. I recall that I supported them when we had the choice between South Africa and Morocco, but the Mandela factor was too powerful to swing it to the southern part of the continent. And so Morocco has kept faith. They've stayed with their blueprint for the World Cup, the first blueprint they provided, the bidding document they had, and the king, a football royalty, so to speak. I recall that in 1984, when we went to play Morocco for the Los Angeles Olympic qualifier, he was still a young man. Indeed, he was a special guest of honor in that game, in which we had Patrick Okala of blessed memory in goal, and we had 6 players making their debut. We lost that game on penalties, and some of the greats couldn't really get to America, but they still went to America. That was in the World Cup. And so we're talking World Cup, and you look at Portugal, Spain, Morocco in one corner, and in the other corner, this is a blue corner this time, you have Uruguay, Paraguay, and of course, Argentina.
Uruguay.
It's a party time. But I think it's all about money. Money, 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 money. Infantino wants to assure the reserves of FIFA, make it really comfortable for anyone who really wants to rule the game. You need to also have a fling with good money. And Saudi Arabia is warming up for 34. So they have a long time to build up. So the money is really coming in for FIFA. Europe started it all. When Europe decided to play their Nations Cup in so many capitals. Yes. I think that idea now has gone in. We wonder whether CAF too is beginning to pick up the idea with saying that 3 African countries will host the Nations Cup in 2027. Kenya, Uganda, and of course Tanzania. And so I think that's the trend. It's the trend. And if you look at the expanded nature of this competition, one country will be really huge burden for one country to bear. Qatar did it because they knew what they wanted.
Qatar did it because they don't want to want it. But you did make allusion to the fact that yes, the coffers of FIFA, we kind of have a lot of, I don't know if there is enough space to look at what will be coming in. Look at it from the marketing angle. This must be the stroke of a genius. In this centenary celebration that FIFA are trying to incorporate into the 2030 World Cup.
Yes, you're very right there. It reminds me of that advert in the 90s when you had these banks, mushroom banks coming up. You remember the advert? Everybody come inside.
the baby advert. And we know the spot where it is.
Everybody come inside. That is what Infantino wants to do. And he says there's going to be only one bid for the 2030 World Cup. And yet they will still go through the bidding process. Ask me what they want to do with the minimum requirements when you have already you've already closed the way for any other bidder. But then for the 2034, he says the nations in Asia and of course in the OFC, that's Oceania Football Association, can also put in a bid. But I tell you, Saudi Arabia will want to go it. They may not want to go it alone. They may be looking at some kind of partnership within the Gulf. But I think they are ready. And that's a good way to go. Everybody come inside. You have a piece of the cake. In Montevideo, where the first World Cup was played, inside the Stadio Centenario, the Uruguayans will have what to sell. They will say they have the World Cup in 2030. In Argentina, Buenos Aires, where the World Cup was played in 1978, they can say they have a part of the World Cup to sell. So everybody come to Argentina and don't cry for them because there's money coming in. And of course, Paraguay, for the first time in Asunción, they'll be looking at having the World Cup with them. It's a happy time. It's a happy time for all. But if you ask the conservatives and of course the critics who say that Infantino doesn't really want to go through the scrutiny, he needs to answer so many questions on exactly what the vision is. When you have celebratory games in a tournament like FIFA, you will have thought that they will have organized a separate competition to celebrate 100 years of football at the global level. But he wants to use the World Cup as the showpiece. So there is a catch to it. And you can get to have sponsors from even South America coming in powerfully, sponsors from Europe, sponsors from Africa. And where else do you need? Even those in Asia, we'll be looking at, let's be party to it, because even the Arab world, we have something to find attachment to. And
I think it will, Mitch, it looks like a rainbow World Cup. But then let us situate this. Because we were talking about the centenary, the centenary 100 years, and we look back, and then our own Olympics in Nigeria has to be with the National Sport Festival. Mitchell, looking through our records here, we've seen that the National Sport Festival started in 1973. Should we have done what FIFA is doing? Should we have capitalized? Should we have celebrated the 50th edition, the golden edition of the National Sport Festival? Dance we're having in 2021, 2022, and then in 2023. We're not having. We're going in 2024. Should we have shifted probably what happened in Delta last year and taken it this year and capitalize on it and sell it to celebrate it? What are we celebrating? This is the 50th edition of the National Sport Festival. Mitchell, are we celebrating it? Have we missed out on something?
Good thinking, good product, and the sad part of it is how many individuals are thinking in the same mold or fold as you are trying to paint. Who remembers even the inaugural National Sports Festival? How many people? It's like the Challenge Cup, Nigeria's oldest and most glamorous competition, the best of football at knockout level. How many people do remember when it started? Have we had any effort at celebrating even long-term, medium-term, 50th anniversary, 60th anniversary, or if it goes to 100, who will celebrate it? The only time in Nigerian sports I remember we attempted to sell a package that has to do with heritage or milestone was the bid for the Commonwealth. Some of us were part of, wanted to celebrate 100 years of Nigeria coming together as a nation when Lord Lugard brought us together as Nigeria, 1914. Yeah, and we're saying if we hosted the Commonwealth Games of from Lugard's territory, if we hosted it in 2014, that would be 100 years. And it was a strong selling point. Scotland, Glasgow beat us because they have the Commonwealth within their control. And the election in Colombo, Sri Lanka, I still insist, was not really corresponding with the image of the Commonwealth. Election where you did vote, somebody went to count it at one corner and nobody monitored the counting. They announced the results. They passed a vote that the voting sheet should be destroyed. That is another story for another day. But that was the only strong time we talked about 100 years of Nigeria being celebrated sports-wise using the Commonwealth Games. Nigeria, 100 years of the National Sports Festival. Is there thinking in that regard? That's why we say professionals, those who have a very strong bias and they have competence in sports should manage the sporting firmament so that we don't get this lapses, we don't miss some of these opportunities. When you bring individuals who are coming to sit down and start reading to learn, and if they learn, they don't stay long enough to actually translate their lessons. It causes what we call in French a décalage. There is a big gap, and it doesn't help. And think about it. National Sports Festival, the first was hosted in Lagos in 1972. Can we bring back the festival to celebrate 50 years of it in Lagos? And that's if Lagos is even ready, because the way we have, look at all the stadia in Lagos abandoned. I don't want to say. And yet people are talking about the youths have to be engaged. You have the Tinubu mantra, where it says that they will be going back to the business side of sports as enunciated in the sports policy. But what do we have? Agege Stadium, the stadium in Teslim, even the major stadium itself is a disaster. Efforts were made by the last dispensation of Sunday Dare to at least bring pieces of it to life. But how does that sell the really leading the pack? They've been host for so many years. They've put in bids over time, at least 5 World Cup bids. I recall that I supported them when we had the choice between South Africa and Morocco, but the Mandela factor was too powerful to swing it to the southern part of the continent. And so Morocco has kept faith. They've stayed with their blueprint for the World Cup, the first blueprint they provided, the bidding document they had, and the king, a football royalty, so to speak. I recall that in 1984, when we went to play Morocco for the Los Angeles Olympic qualifier, he was still a young man. Indeed, he was a special guest of honor in that game, in which we had Patrick Okala of blessed memory in goal, and we had 6 players making their debut. We lost that game on penalties, and some of the greats couldn't really get to America, but they still went to America. That was in the World Cup. And so we're talking World Cup, and you look at Portugal, Spain, Morocco in one corner, and in the other corner, this is a blue corner this time, you have Uruguay, Paraguay, and of course Argentina.
Uruguay.
It's a party time, but I think it's all about money. Money, 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 money. Infantino wants to assure the reserves of FIFA, make it really comfortable for anyone who really wants to rule the game. You need to also have a fling with good money. And Saudi Arabia is warming up for 34. So they have a long time to build up. So the money is really coming in for FIFA. Europe started it all. When Europe decided to play their Nations Cup in so many capitals. Yes. I think that idea now has gone in. We wonder whether CAF too is beginning to pick up the idea with saying that 3 African countries will host the Nations Cup in 2027. Kenya, Uganda, and of course Tanzania. And so I think that's the trend. It's the trend. And if you look at the expanded nature of this competition, one country will be really huge burden for one country to bear. Qatar did it because they knew what they wanted.
Qatar did it because they don't want to want it. But you did make allusion to the fact that yes, the coffers of FIFA, we kind of have a lot of, I don't know if there is enough space to look at what will be coming in. Look at it from the marketing angle. This must be the stroke of a genius. In this centenary celebration that FIFA are trying to incorporate into the 2030 World Cup.
Yes, you're very right there. It reminds me of that advert in the 90s when you had these banks, mushroom banks coming up. You remember the advert? Everybody come inside.
the Obebi advert. And we know the spot where it is.
Everybody come inside. That is what Infantino wants to do. And he says there's going to be only one bid for the 2030 World Cup. And yet they will still go through the bidding process. Ask me what they want to do with the minimum requirements when you have already you've already closed the way for any other bidder. But then for the 2034, he says the nations in Asia and of course in the OFC, that's Oceania Football Association, can also put in a bid. But I tell you, Saudi Arabia will want to go it. They may not want to go it alone. They may be looking at some kind of partnership within the Gulf. But I think they are ready. And that's a good way to go. Everybody come inside. You have a piece of the cake. In Montevideo, where the first World Cup was played, inside the Stadio Centenario, the Uruguayans will have what to sell. They will say they have the World Cup in 2030. In Argentina, Buenos Aires, when the World Cup was played in 1978, they can say they have a part of the World Cup to sell. So everybody come to Argentina and don't cry for them because there's money coming in. And of course, Paraguay, for the first time in Asunción, they'll be looking at having the World Cup with them. It's a happy time. It's a happy time for all. But if you ask the conservatives and of course the critics who say that Infantino doesn't really want to go through the scrutiny, he needs to answer so many questions on exactly what the vision is. When you have celebratory games in a tournament like FIFA, you will have thought that they will have organized a separate competition to celebrate 100 years of football at the global level. But he wants to use the World Cup as a showpiece. So there is a catch to it. And you can get to have sponsors from even South America coming in powerfully, sponsors from Europe, sponsors from Africa. And where else do you need? Even those in Asia will be looking at, let's be party to it, because even the Arab world, we have something to find attachment to. And
I think it will, Mitch, it looks like a rainbow World Cup. But then let us situate this. Because we were talking about the centenary, the centenary 100 years, and we look back, and then our own Olympics in Nigeria has to be with the National Sport Festival. Mitchell, looking through our records here, we've seen that the National Sport Festival started in 1973. Should we have done what FIFA is doing? Should we have capitalized? Should we have celebrated the 50th edition, the golden edition of the National Sport Festival? Dance we're having in 2021, 2022, and then in 2023. We're not having. We're going in 2024. Should we have shifted probably what happened in Delta last year and taken it this year and capitalize on it and sell it to celebrate it? What are we celebrating? This is the 50th edition of the National Sport Festival. Mitchell, are we celebrating it? Have we missed out on something?
Good thinking, good product, and the sad part of it is how many individuals are thinking in the same mold or fold as you are trying to paint. Who remembers even the inaugural National Sports Festival? How many people? It's like the Challenge Cup, Nigeria's oldest and most glamorous competition, the best of football at knockout level. How many people do remember when it started? Have we had any effort at celebrating even long-term, medium-term, 50th anniversary, 60th anniversary, or if it goes to 100, who will celebrate it? The only time in Nigerian sports I remember we attempted to sell a package that has to do with heritage or milestone was the bid for the Commonwealth. Some of us were part of, wanted to celebrate 100 years of Nigeria coming together as a nation when Lord Lugard brought us together as Nigeria, 1914. Yeah. And we're saying if we hosted the Commonwealth Games of from Lugard's territory, if we hosted it in 2014, that would be 100 years. And it was a strong selling point. Scotland, Glasgow beat us because they have the Commonwealth within their control. And the election in Colombo, Sri Lanka, I still insist, was not really corresponding with the image of the Commonwealth. Election where you did vote, somebody went to count it at one corner and nobody monitored the counting. They announced the results. They passed a vote that the voting sheet should be destroyed. That is another story for another day. But that was the only strong time we talked about 100 years of Nigeria being celebrated sports-wise using the Commonwealth Games. Nigeria, 100 years of the National Sports Festival. Is there thinking in that regard? That's why we say professionals, those who have a very strong bias and they have competence in sports should manage the sporting firmament so that we don't get this lapses, we don't miss some of these opportunities. When you bring individuals who are coming to sit down and start reading to learn, and if they learn, they don't stay long enough to actually translate their lessons. It causes what we call in French a décalage. There is a big gap, and it doesn't help. And think about it. National Sports Festival. The first was hosted in Lagos in 1972. Can we bring back the festival to celebrate 50 years of it in Lagos? And that's if Lagos is even ready, because the way we have, look at all the stadia in Lagos abandoned. I don't want to say. And yet people are talking about the youths have to be engaged. You have the Tinubu mantra, where it says that they will be going back to the business side of sports as enunciated in the sports policy. But what do we have? Agege Stadium, the stadium in Teslim, even the major stadium itself is a disaster. Efforts were made by the last dispensation of Sunday Dare to at least bring pieces of it to life. But how does that sell the whole concept of trying to get Nigerian youth energized? Now you have a youth ministry independent from the sports. It's a good thing. Sports over time has been fighting for this independence, and now we have it. What do we want to do with it? It reminds me of that song. Now that we found love, what are we going
to do with it? Mitchell, you've talked about Don't Cry For Me, Argentina. And now you say, well, now that we found love. But then, I want to go on a very short break. When we come back, I want to pick your brain a little. You talked about, the decay in infrastructure. Should we have bidded, to go to Benin to bid, to host Africa, when only 2 stadia in Nigeria, CAF says, are good enough for them to play football? We'll be right back. When we come back, Mitch, we are waiting to hear your answers to this. Stay with us. Yeah, you're welcome back. It is the Channel Sport on Sunday. And we're picking the brain of the master himself, Mitchell Obi. FIFA came out during the week and said, look, 100 years of the World Cup will be in 2030. Remember 1930 to 2030. Just add 1 in the 19 and make it 20. That makes it 100 years. But then before we went on break, we also asked him to look inwards and say, because we bidded for the 2025, 2027, which of them that we'll go to. And then they said, look, Morocco is hosting. Morocco has started bidding for the World Cup, preparing for the World Cup since 1994. Mitch did mention 2010. It was hot between South Africa and Morocco. And of course, the Mandela effect, you can't beat that. Even if you bring President, who was American president then? Was it Clinton? Or at that time, even if you bring an American president and join them, the Mandela effect was just too overwhelming. I don't think anybody would have voted otherwise. So went through that. Morocco, but in all this while, they kept improving. They kept putting the infrastructure in place. We'll show you some of them because I think earlier this year, I'll let you know, we have our correspondent Irene, who was among those invited in Morocco to come and look at what they have. It's unfortunate because we can say that even most of our teams playing here on the continent, on the African continent, that when they come to inspect the pitches, when they come to inspect what we have, they inspect the stadium, when they inspect the toilet, when they inspect the seats, when they inspect the scoreboard, even the scoreboards can't work. But then we did say we want to host Africa. We've hosted Africa. There are these hosting things. There was the First Tax 77. Before then, there was the All Africa Games. I think 73. And coming down to 2000, we hosted Africa, a lot of them. What has Nigeria benefited from hosting? What have we spent? What are the legacies of hosting? What are the infrastructure that came with this? So when you want to look at these things, you ask yourself, was it worth it? We're talking about the centenary. But let me just take a minute before I introduce Jimmy's in the house. Because in 1913, that is when some of you should take note of this, the World Cup started in 1930. That was in Uruguay. In 1934, it went to Italy. The Italians won it. And in 1938, it went to France, where Italy defended it. And they thought no other nations, has done that. And say, go back to win it back to back. In 42 and 46, it was the Second World War. Hitler held the world, and then there was no football. But when football came back in 1950, Mitch and the rest can remember that Uruguayans who won the inaugural when they hosted went to Brazil and made the Brazilians weep. made them jump out of their windows, made them change the color of their jersey. And after 1950, the team went back to Europe. It was Switzerland. Remained in Europe, right there in 1958, when Pelé, the young 18-year-old, was in Sweden to say, yes, Brazil can forget their sorrows. Brazil can go back and say, yes, we lost 8 years ago, but now we have come of age. Sweden hosted, that was in 1958. In 1962, the hills of Chile was where the world went to, and then Brazil said, yes, we could do back-to-back. But then football came home, actually, in 1966. Not just did it come home, it remained home when the Jack Charltons of this world, the Bobby Moores of this world, did it, and then they had, to win the World Cup for England, their solitary World Cup title, they hosted and won. And then when in 1970, the team went back to Mexico. And then, of course, that was when Pelé and co said, they played Italy, and the greatest team of all time, they have said, has been that Brazilian team that won in 1970. 74, it went back to Germany. The Germans did won. 78, oh, Argentina 78. Who will forget that? In 82, it was Espada. In 86, went back to Mexico. And then a god, scored goal with his hand. They said the hand of the gods. And then, because the English have not forgotten that goal. That was 1986. In 1990, Italia 90, we thought we'll be there, but we were not. And then in 1994, we made our debut. Can you forget that goal that Finidi scored in Algeria? Mitch, can you forget that? I'll come to you. And then we qualified, to be in our first World Cup in 1994. In 1998, it was France. Those who they've been trying, they've been getting closer and closer and closer. But then they said, yes, they hosted and they won. After 1998, we do go to Korea, Japan, 2002. Then in 2006, it was the Germans. In 2010, it was Africa. It was Mandela's World Cup. And then in 2014, Brazil hosted, but then the Germans came, the German machine. A team that has won the World Cup outside their territory for so long, they met their Waterloo right there at home. Why do Brazil should never host if they want to win the World Cup? Because in 1950 and in 2014, it was not the case. Qatar took us in 2018, and then in 2022, of course, we all just saw what just happened. Russia in 18 and Qatar in 2022. But here we are now, and they want to go to the Americas, and in 2030, it will be 3 host nations. 3 continents. Africa will host, Europe will host, South America will host. 6 nations already qualified. They're going to be he said, Mitch says, come and join the party.
It seems like a boo-boo thing. It comes with a lot of marketing nuggets. Yes, we've seen quite a number of things that the master did actually talk about in terms of marketing, in terms of celebrating milestones. Let's look at it. We have not been able to domesticate some of these things, even here in Nigeria. For example, in 1973, we won the All-African Games.
Yeah.
It had to take the Stationery Stores Supporters Trust to celebrate their own, to remind Nigeria that you are supposed to celebrate your heroes that won the All-African Gold in 1973, 50 years after. Now, celebrating their own, they reminded Nigeria, but nobody has taken cognizance of the fact that, look, it's something we need to get done. You've talked about 1973 festival. We have the Festac 77 coming up. It's something they need to start planning about, because we need to start looking at short-term plans, mid-term and long-term plans, because for us to get it right, just like this centennial paparazzi, it's fantastic for me, because at the end of the day, you talk about Uruguay starting from Montevideo. You've given us, you've succeeded in Razzmatazz, with all the World Cup events, and it's something lovely to hear. I was looking at Mitch. I'm able to say, man, I say that, memories. He had memories being rekindled, and he was so delighted about that. Something maybe Theo cannot really,
He's learning from the masters. So let's go back. Let's go back and meet Mitch. Mitch is waiting for us. Hello, Mitch. Hello, Mitch. Are you there? Are you there? Is Mitch there?
No, that was an excellent chronicle, a concise one, a master class. And I think students of the game need to call you so that you can capture for them 100 years, which you just did in just 3 minutes or 2 minutes. You captured 100 years of football. And of course, the exciting part was Uruguay coming to Maracana to beat
the Brazilians.
And the interesting part of it is that Brazil tried to bring back that moment in Maracana when they hosted. And you know how many goals they chopped against Germany? It was a World Cup scandal right there inside the home of Samba. The Samba, it was a scandal. And of course, we can always talk about the World Cup itself. 100 years. It's not only about those playing the game. Those who even promote the game. Because next year in Paris, the International Sports Press Association will be returning to Paris to celebrate 100 years. 100 years of sports journalism.
Wow.
And the interesting part of it is that the first executive committee meeting of the International Sports Press Association took place right inside a boxing ring in Paris.
Wow.
And it was symptomatic of the struggle they had to form a global association and the struggle ahead. Because as journalists, you have to constantly keep fighting for your independence of thought and expression and even of oppression. These days, people don't want to talk to us. Like even Infantino, he stays in his office, he prepares a video, he sends it out. Nobody questions what he's saying. He's not interrogated. That's how, over time, 100 years will be in Paris. That's next year to celebrate 100 years of writing the gospel of sports. And for me, it's also part of the celebration kick. And let's come back home. You asked me a question whether Nigeria's bid. That bid reminded me of a former landlord who was still looking at his tenants to call him, landlord, do you have a room? we have hosted FIFA's competition, easily the biggest competitions aside the World Cup. The under-20, the under-17, and we did it successfully. You ask yourself, what is the legacy?
Yeah.
If we cannot put together a bid to host a 24-team Nations Cup, then what is the legacy we have? But I can tell you, Ken, for free, that we have the kennel. We have the kennel to host the World Cup. We have the kennel to host the Nations Cup. All we need is to look at the elements that come into hosting. And if you look at those elements, there are critical areas where we are lacking. Our economy can't even stand the kind of hosting. Even though hosting helps to boost the economy, helps to fast track the economy. You can imagine what it will take if we get our hosting of the Nations Cup right or the World Cup. And then security. These are all cardinal areas when you want to host. And you must be comfortable when you want to go to put a bid. If you are putting a bid when you know that your security is not assured, when you're putting a bid when you know that your Naira, if you go to the international market, we're asking which rate are you giving us? We want to come and watch the opening game. Which rate should we use to book for our hotels? These are not the kind of times. And that's why the bid for the Nations Cup was just, somebody said it was a one room. Somebody stayed in his room and gave us a bid. But I recall asking the former sports minister, Sunday Dare, whether there was a government guarantee to it. And he said there was a government guarantee to the bid. But how fully did the government back that bid? We saw the sports minister, the new sports minister, who is still very innocent. I want to say he's still very innocent. He's still learning the ropes. Who jumped on the aircraft to go for a bid. He didn't really quite understand. I don't think he understood the dynamics. There was no chance. The bid was dead on arrival. And along with Benin, what did we want to achieve? Well, who did the inspection? What facilities were put in place? You don't go for a bid when the nation is not backing you, when you cannot count on support. The bid must be something that comes from the heart of the people. And the people must be ready to welcome all the others. So Nigeria's bid was dead on arrival. I'm surprised they even started flirting between 2025 when they knew Morocco was through and through the country for 2025. Then they pushed to 2027. The train had already left the stop. So there was really nothing for that bid. We'll come back home and try to organize ourselves. The problem we have here is that we tend to look at our national team when it comes to football. We tend to look at our national team as the reference of growth. We want to use the national team as the point of determining whether we are moving ahead or not. If we go to the World Cup and get to win the World Cup, that doesn't make us a viable football economy. We have to really get it right where our football can run itself, generate revenue, keep everyone busy, engage the youths, and then our people can find joy in the game. Look at the crowd in Kano yesterday in the league game, the Kano Pillars game against Katsina, the battle of the case. We are saying that this game the energy is still there, the crowd still there, but we need to really build a brand, build a product first, get the mix right before the brand. We have the league has started. Outsiders are coming to tell us how to use AI cameras to bring 6 matches or 4 matches simultaneously. What is our network doing? The television network. Government has to start or engineer the football economy. They must put down seed money to get our economy buoyant, to make our football even viable. Government needs to put down seed money, like they've done for the arts, the guys who
Nollywood guys. Yeah.
Nollywood. Yes. There's no effort in that direction. And Tinubu's agenda says he's going to create a welfare fund. He's going to build facilities in 6 zones of international standards. And I expect the minister to be thinking in that direction, not calling referees and those should be left for the NFF. Those are people who should be saddled with such. The minister should be thinking on how Nigerian youths can be again, even for the clubs. Only at the weekend, we saw the formation of the African Club Association by the CAF president. And if you look at the objective of that association, it is to see how they can get to build, stakeholders can get to build stadium, improve the game at their level, get the fans to be involved, get the youth to be energized and participate, and get the countries making good money from football. The other day, Saudi Arabia wanted to put 1 billion for Mbappe. They even put 300 million for Osimhen.
Yeah.
Can we do that?
Can we do that? Michelle, just hold it there. Today is Sunday, Michelle. And then sometimes, those who are watching us also want a kind of refreshment. So sometimes when we go this high and I want to see some light at the end of the tunnel. Michelle, we want to open the lines now. We want to open the lines now. Callers, coming. Michelle did. I mean, there was a light there was some light in the tunnel right there in Kano. Not just in the tunnel of Kano, but in the the stands everywhere was filled. It shows you that yes, I do. Sometimes I don't want to make this because sometimes when you make certain comments, I don't know how people look at it because. You look at comparative advantage, my guys in the house, Mitchell and those who are watching, where Mitchell said, invest in football. You understand? You do not need to advertise. You don't advertise salt. You understand? You don't advertise. You sure you understand? You don't.
You don't advertise football in the Northwest. Look at the Northwest derby between Kano Pillars and Katsina.
Even the Northeast.
Even while Manchester United and Chelsea were playing,
that is
filled to the brim.
Yes. That is exactly what yesterday. Okay, let's see the results of the MPFL games I played yesterday. Because we missed yesterday was Bendel Insurance taking on Shooting Stars. You understand? These are African greats, not just Nigerian greats.
Shockingly,
you understand?
The same crowd there.
I'm telling you, look, the Kano Pillars Casino. Yes. That derby. That derby. I mean, I tell you this. I couldn't count. I saw the visuals. I saw I spoke with Ari. I sent emails to Ari Wala. I said, Ari, can I have this? Because I wanted to show, get distance down here so that you can see. In the north, we don't talk politics here. But most of the time, when they want to vote, people queue out. They come out when they want to do them. In the south, there is lethargy. There is lethargy. You can't come to watch your team. You can't come to support your team. Yes. You want them to beg you to come to the stadium. We're not begging anybody here to come to the stadium. If you are a member, if you support Manchester United, and then you can go to the viewing center, they go and pay. You can't go to watch Bendel Insurance play, and then you say you are supporting whatever. It is not it. Yesterday was Insurance taking on Shooting Stars. Any part of the world, the nation is supposed to calm down.
It's supposed to calm down. And when you consider the fact that we have 4 teams here now, Kano Pillars, Katsina, Bendel Insurance, Shooting Stars. Bendel and Shooting, they are by far greater than the other 2. You would have expected that, okay, a lot of fans from even Ibadan will storm Bendel, will storm Edo, or even the Edo crowd themselves You have a tumultuous, the
shooting stars versus superstars.
It's shocking.
50 Monue, we leave Lagos. By 11 a.m., the street of Ibadan, you see no one. Let's look at those are the roads. Canopilas with Casina. When you take the results.
Canopilas between Casina anytime. I won't go to nil. That's a fantastic derby. Bendel Insurance beating Shooting Stars by 2 goals to nil. This game was special for me for obvious reasons, but talk about that later.
Okay.
Doma United defeated Bios.
Maybe that was why your missed not set.
Maybe that's why he's not.
That particular game brings me. I hope those our administrators, they do the needful in terms of sports betting.
Okay.
Betting integrity.
Let's
incident.
Let's go to Niger State. We'll come back. We have Chinoso over there. Hello, Chinoso. How are you?
Hello. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Yeah.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mitchell Obi.
Mitch. Mitch is there.
Good afternoon to Mr. Ken.
Yeah.
You see, my name is Chinomso Onya. I'm calling from Bida, the ancient city of the Lope Emirates in Niger State, Nigeria.
Oh, yeah.
You see, I will like what Mr. Mitchell was talking about, the hosting of this Nations Cup. You see, Nigeria, we always like fire brigade approach. Understand me? We like fire brigade approach. In fact, I sympathize with the new Minister of Sport. You understand? He would have looked at what the footprint of the former minister. He just went to this. Where did he went to? To want to go and bid for hosting of Nations Cup, where Morocco and other North African countries that have the facilities, you understand me, on ground, have been bidding since many years ago. Look, let me tell you for free. You know that we in West Africa, especially in Nigeria, where is the road? Look at the NFL, this is our nation's Premier League. Look at the players. Look at the fatigue they used to undergo before they play their next match. Look at all those things. There is no structure on ground. Look, this sport minister, in fact, I pity this man. This man has a lot of work to do. He has a lot of work. Is that it?
All right. Okay, no, so
I don't understand how to put it. The man needs to put his house in order before talking about hosting. Let me allow that people to call.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chinoso. We have another prince from Bida. There used to be a prince right there, the prince of the Niger. Now we have another prince, reaching us over there.
Ken, I was saying something about
before we go to Mitchell.
That was called in the game between Bendel and
Shooting Stars. Yeah.
On social media, we've had a lot of people complaining about the possibility of sport betting activity being spotted, where the player was said to have probably scored an own goal against the side 3SC.
Okay.
And for me, it's one of the things I do say before starting the league. You need to organize a proper symposium in-house and also for all stakeholders to ensure that match fixing is not the order of the day. Violence as much as possible and anti-thuggery, all of these activities, you need to really engage the clubs, engage the supporters, engage even the players to understand that, look, you must not bet on games you are involved in. You must not bet against teams that you are playing against. Sport betting,
is that not just speculation? Were they proving the guarantee somebody was involved?
At the end of the day, these are some of the things that actually do compromise the quality of the league. Because I would say for free, it is one of the reasons why we have sport betting companies. They don't leave out so many markets. You have limited markets as against what you have in the EPL for La Liga. You just have a few markets open.
Okay.
So let us begin to make these players understand that you cannot bet on games. I think it was a game, Rangers 3-3, Rangers Gumbi. Emmanuel Fabi, goalkeeper, was involved. He was being harassed and all that. They investigated. We have Ivan Toney, which case we understand well. We need to start talking about it now.
Okay, let's take our next caller. Hello. Hello. All right. I'll say we should go on break now. So we're going on break. When we come back, we'll still keeping Mitch there. The lines will still be open. We'll still talking at them. Today, it will be Arsenal taking on Manchester City for those of you who follow foreign game. We'll be right back. We'll be right back. Yeah, you're welcome back at Intersectional Sport on Sunday. We're on the home run. You guys, I know you're trying to call in. The lines will still be open. Mitch is still right there. We're still picking picking his brain. You can pick that brain for 24, 48 hours, 72 hours non-stop, and then it enriches you. What you get is what you are asking for. But before we go back to Mitch, let me make Jimmy. Let me make Jimmy happy here. Verstappen has just won his third championship. Back to back. Okay, back to back. He has 3. Vettel won back to back 4. There was also, I think, Fangio that won 54, 55, 56.
Yeah, man.
Fangio. So in doing this, he has joined the greats. For here we have Michael Schumacher, the first man to win 7 championships, followed by Hamilton also on 7.
104.
The greatest.
104 wins.
Yeah, the greatest of them all.
Yeah.
For now, they are the greatest. There they are.
Okay. Hamilton has done 7.
Yes.
Michael Schumacher has done 7.
Yeah.
Yes. Juan
Manuel Fangio
has done 5. Alan Prost has done 4. Sebastian Vettel, of course, has done 4. Remember they calling him from La Vie that year.
Yeah.
Max Verstappen, of course, has just done his 3rd in a row, and of course, Nico Piquet.
We have always been talking about dominance.
Okay.
But I think we've seen an extra layer to what dominance sounds or looks like this year. Especially when you consider the fact that in 16 races, he's won 13. It's absolutely, mind-boggling the way he's done it, the way he has gone about it. This should be someone we used to call Mad Max. Very aggressive.
The other time he was mad, he was not winning.
He was winning, but not. I mean,
but the car
wasn't that spectacular.
The car wasn't okay.
But we always knew that he has something special in him.
Yeah.
But that thing that is special in him is what we are seeing come to the front burner, especially with the fantastic car. Yet, what we see is that Perez is not even close to him.
Of course, there are always the second driver. But if you look at the standing, Perez is still second on there. He's still second.
When he believed that he was going to go toe to toe with him, there was a point. He had 2 wins. Perez had 2 wins. But ever since that particular time, that he felt, so you want to compete with me? He has been unstoppable since, and that's exactly why we love this particular sport. It's something that when that person begins to dominate, almost always. We saw Hamilton dominate. Everybody say, it's boring, it's become boring. Let it be boring. Let this man enjoy his time. I mean, at 26, he's shown us that, look, I can do anything as much as I have got.
They asked his father yesterday that same question, and then the man said, let us enjoy this first. Can it go 7, 8, 9?
It's very possible. But I also think that it will depend on the rules, on the engine regulations, because naturally after some point in time, 5, 6 years, they will change regulations. It now depends on how fantastic they react.
The
likes of Andrea Newey, the greatest Formula 1 design engineer right now, is still with that team. Also the principal,
they've been poaching. They know how to get the best engineers, get the best design engineers right in that team, and make sure they have that fantastic. Vettel used to, do his play straight for this particular team, but it doesn't take away what Ferrari has done so far this season. Maybe they are not so much off, but what Red Bull has done, what Verstappen has done, the way he has dominated 13 out of 16 races, Perez scoring 2 wins also, and just one particular incident at Singapore where they didn't do well. Apart from that, it's been total dominance for Red Bull, and we really have to be excited because Verstappen also, when you consider the fact that Verstappen has a girlfriend, Kelly Piquet, that is daughter of Nelson Piquet, and now our own Verstappen has become, a 3 WBC champion alongside Nelson Piquet, competing with his possible father-in-law. Is something that is very, very exciting for the sport, and I think, Okay, I know it's your time. I don't want to interrupt you.
Okay, when Hamilton was winning right, left, and center.
Yes. I don't want to interrupt you. I don't want to.
Mike has interrupted.
Hello, Mike. I don't want to interrupt him. I said let me make him happy. Mike, how are you?
Hello, good afternoon, Mr. Ken.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mike.
the masters himself has spoken. When I said our minister was going on a jamboree, but sorry to use that word, we was going there. Nigeria. But I knew quite well that mission was dead on arrival.
Okay. All right.
On the league, I love what the other man, Mr. Jimmy, said about what my former team Stars did to remember old stars.
Your former team, which is your present team?
Maybe because of this palliative. We shouldn't talk about World Cup now. We are talking about palliative.
Mike, which is your present team? You say it says Stars is your former team. Kill the volume. You are busting our ears. Before you leave, you said Stars was your former team. Which is your present team? You don't have any team.
Stars now, my former team is Stars.
And your present in call, present in call.
I won yesterday. I win today.
It's okay, thank you. All right, let's go back. Let's go back to Mitch. Mitch, we're on a home run now. Let's have.
Yes, I know. I'm happy that you allowed our friend to really give us a bit on Formula One.
Yeah.
Except that it will take another generation for us to even start thinking of a circuit in Nigeria. When we ordinary Lagos Ibadan road here takes us 12 years to complete. When we will start building a circuit, let's not get there. I don't enjoy the fancies. I don't indulge in fancies.
Mitch, we have a track. I think we have a track at Trade Fair. I believe so. And there are some boys that are doing well in Benin. Yeah. They are doing well in Benin. I will try and get. I think I will try and get them.
On which track?
They have a track between in Benin and Ondo.
If you go to a circuit, Ken, and see what it is you have on the circuit, you won't be talking of those things as tracks.
There are boxers and there is Dambe. You say there are tiny. Bahrain. I don't want to go to Europe. Bahrain. I say, Mitch, Bahrain money is flowing. Oil money is flowing in Bahrain now.
What do we have in Nigeria? Don't we have oil money? What do we have? Your budget is essentially oil.
I know.
Your budget is essentially oil money. So what are you talking about oil money? We have not used our oil money well. That is the summary. But let's leave that apart. Let's come about the vision.
Okay, so
the vision has to be clear for. Yes, the vision has to be clear.
Okay, let me ask you.
I want to give the sports minister 100 days. After that, we'll start telling him that the honeymoon is over. Because according to the president of this country, he's supposed to hit the ground running. That's what he told us his ministers were doing. Yeah. And hit the ground running means that we have to know what his action plan is. And for sports, it's very simple. He doesn't need to go back and reinvent the wheel. The continuation is there because it's the same party. APC has managed 4 years. We had that APC. We have another APC. And what we expect from the sports minister is to integrate what has been done in the past, what is there for him. He wants to add his own ideas and give us an action plan. Next year, in March, we have the African Games in Ghana. After that, we have the Olympics. Those are short-term goals. What is he doing to galvanize the sporting environment to make a difference?
Mitch, let me ask you this, because this is fundamental. The Moroccan, I'm sorry, I don't want to look at this, but what other choice do I have? The Moroccan experience. I mean, you're talking about these games. Before Felix is on the line, but let me just ask you this. After Felix, you can just give your answer. What should our focus be? Should it be on attending all these game qualifying or focus on infrastructure, sports infrastructure? The schools, make sure that they have the courts, they have the fields, they have the tracks to bring them on. But before you answer, let's talk to Felix. Hello, Felix. Felix, how are you? A minute. Can we just have Felix? Are you still there?
To the district of Abuja. Am I on to you? Am I clear?
Yes,
to you
yes.
There?
Yes, but kill the volume. Or stay away from your telly, or just kill the volume. Kill the volume.
You know, you talked about the changes in the move that people go to stadium to watch our football in the 80s and now.
Okay.
A lot have changed. These are the dynamics. That's the economy. People's emotions have been so much disparitized by what you have in these days. The emotion when you talk about the issue of insecurity in the year 2023 now, you cannot travel safely. You know, in the olden days, when it was stationary stuff that was Rangers International, the Nickel, the Toilet Fishes, and some of the beautiful players. People feel happy to go to the stadium. They travel from afar.
All right, Mike, your line is breaking. That we've gotten what you're trying to say. Thank you very much for contributing.
What I'm trying to say, in effect, is that there are so many issues in the economy now that is affecting our emotions that is making going to the stadium to watch football a less priority. These are the issues we need to address.
Right. Okay.
And the economy is so bad.
The economy is not
changed. Yeah. And outside this war, outside the world, look at other Africans. We talk about Morocco.
All right, thank you, Felix. Let's take Mitch. I'm sorry, we're running out of time. Hello, Mitch. Where should the focus be on? Infrastructure or short-term qualification for all these games? And yes, okay, we'll go and we win a gold. I will come back. I will believe all is well. What should the focus be on?
That's why you need a plan on how to really get to develop or improve or refurbish your infrastructure. As I said. All these are documented. You don't need to go and be wasting time. You have to hit the ground running. The president says he has an agenda to build 6 international sports facilities across the country. Is there a budget for that? What are the plans for all of that? The facilities we have on the ground, how would we intend to improve upon it? While you are improving on the facilities, that is the structure. Let's look at the superstructure, which is in terms of competition. These are traditional competitions. The Africa Games, the Olympics, they are traditional competitions. What are you doing in that regard to improve our overall performance? If you don't get to put up a program for all of that, then why do we even have a Ministry of Sports? As people say that we should still go back to the Sports Commission, and I tell them, if you have a ministry dedicated to sports, why do you need a Sports Commission? Are the professionals going to come from outside this country to run the commission? Are they not the same individuals we have seen and we know, and those who have something to do with sports? But beyond all of that, I think it's time for us to get our facilities up and running so that the youths can see what they can do. I expect to see excellence all around, excellence not only in sports, because people expect sports to provide the best. Now, a Super Eagles, you wear the jersey, they want them to win. But we have to win in road construction. We have to win in providing food for the people. We have to win even in providing houses for the greater part. We have to win in fighting inflation. We have to win in stabilizing the naira. Once the economy is right, everything other will find its bounds. As they say, righteousness exalts.
Let's do
the little things right.
Thank you so much, Mitch. Thank you so much, Mitch. It's always a pleasure having you on this show. We're running out of time.
Thank you.
We'll bring you back, and then the discussion will continue from there. Thank you, Mitch.
Thank you.
I think it's simple. At all levels, there must be inter-ministerial collaboration between the ministries of education, sport, and youth development. Those 3 ministries. I think there must be that very genuine interest to make sure, as much as possible, they fashion, a proper long-term strategy that will help for organic growth of sport in Nigeria. That's the way to go.
No, we do really.
Man City, Arsenal.
Exactly.
Arsenal, Man City.
Arsenal, Man City. I think the trend will continue today.
It will not continue. Arsenal to win.
Arsenal to win. The Man City to win. The trend, they say, is going to continue. I don't know what the trend is anyway, but when you check, you will know. It's been a centenary World Cup discussion, and then, like we say, Nigeria will get there. The minister, let's say 100 days, Mitch says, let's say how. This is the inaugural minister of sport. Others have been minister of youth and sport. Let's see the foundation you are laying. Till next week Sunday, I'm Ken Ochonogo. God bless Nigeria.